My name is Alicia Wright. I'm a young adult comic fantasy author. As the world is crazy right now and we can't get out for World Book Day, I thought I would do a virtual author visit for teachers for free, and as a resource, please do invite authors in when you can afford to do so and when everything's not crazy again, because we do make a lot of our income from that. Book royalties are tiny. Okay, what we're going to do today is a writing workshop. As a YA comic fantasy author, what I mostly do is write about fairies and dragons, and then I make fun of them. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a little bit of idea generation and talk about what goes into writing a story so that you've got something to work with. You've got a good framework, okay? So first of all, where do you think authors get their ideas? I'd like you to pause the video and have a discussion. Or if you want, you can just carry on for my answer. The answer is everywhere. It might be something that you saw. Maybe you saw an animal disappear into a hedge and you don't know what it was, and you thought, well, what if it was some mystery animal that's really rare? Or maybe it was a magical animal, something like the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland is an animal vanishing off down a hole that Alice chases. Maybe it was something you're passionate about, like Japan or sports. Maybe it's something that you've read and you want to do something similar but different. For example, what if you like mermaids and you read The Little Mermaid but it's really sad and you wanted to do a happy mermaid story? And The Little Mermaid itself is actually based on an earlier poem called Undine, so even the old writers like Hans Christian Andersen did that, and I'm not saying just copy people and plagiarize. That's not okay. It's not what we're going to do today. We're going to change it up. Don't just copy people. That's bad. But we are always inspired by everything that we take in all the time. That's just how it works. So writers have two tactics. We write what we know and we research what we don't. So for example, if I want to write something about a man who goes to Japan to learn how to make samurai swords, I already know quite a lot about Japan. That was my major. I speak Japanese. I lived there for a year, so I know all about that. But I don't know anything about blacksmithing. I don't know anything about how to make a samurai sword or a broadsword or any kind of sword, so I'd have to do research on that. And that's sort of what you do. You start with what do I know, and then you build on it with what you don't know. And the more research you do, the more stuff you've got to work with. So you should do research, particularly because if you don't do your research, people will notice, and they will call you out on it. So do your research. It can also be pretty fun. You don't have time to do research today, so we're going to start with something that broadly everybody knows. Fairy tales. Everyone knows a couple of fairy tales, right? I'd like you to pause the video and try to write down 3 fairy tales that you can think of. Any fairy tale, doesn't matter which one it is. This is so that we can generate some ideas for everyone to use for the writing exercise. So pause the video. Okay, so hopefully everyone's got a lot of fairy tales that they can use. Some other ideas: Jack and the Beanstalk, The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, Aladdin, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. So hopefully you've got a lot of ideas for fairy tales now. So now that we've got some fairy tales to work with, here's what I want you to do. I want you to condense a fairy tale down into just 5 sentences. Just 5 sentences. It can be done. And I have some examples for you. So first of all, this is one I made into a YouTube short. This is Cinderella. So I'll play that for you now. Cinderella had 2 mean stepsisters and an even meaner stepmother. When the prince of the country, who conveniently lived just up the road, had a ball, they wouldn't let her go. Luckily, she had a fairy godmother who made her a dress and footmen out of rags and some rodents. Unfortunately, it was July and there were no pumpkins around for a coach, so she had to walk all the way there.
She got there at midnight and the spell wore off just as she was walking up to the prince, but it was okay because he was very interested in marrying a girl with obvious access to a fairy godmother.
And I have another example for you. The Little Mermaid. It keeps coming up. I like that one. So here's the 5-sentence fairy tale version of The Little Mermaid.
There were once 6 mermaid princesses who longed to see the world of humans, because the grass is always greener on the other side, in this case literally. The youngest finally got her turn, only to see a handsome prince's birthday party go very, very south when a huge storm hit and sank it. She rescued the prince, but he didn't know it was her, so she moped about it and stalked him for a while. Unable to stand it any longer, she went to the sea witch, who tells her she's an idiot and exactly how horrible becoming a human using this potion will be, what with the feeling of standing on sharp knives with every step and all. When the princess says she'll still take the potion, the sea witch gives her a placebo, stages an intervention, and gets the poor girl some therapy.
Okay, so hopefully you see more what I want you to do. They can be long sentences. No one said you can't cheat a little, okay? But before we do the writing exercise itself, I would like to talk a little bit about what goes into writing a story. There are 4 basic parts to writing a story, 4 things that go into your very basic storytelling. First of all, you've got who. Second, you've got where, so your characters and your setting. Who's it about? Where is this taking place? In a fairy tale, it's normally something very simple, like in a kingdom far, far away, there was a princess locked in a tower. So that's your princess is your who, your kingdom far, far away is your where. And then once you've got characters and somewhere for them to live, you need to have a problem. Because it would be very boring if they just sat around doing nothing, or there was no kind of tension or anything for the reader to be invested in. So you give them a problem, or several problems. Then once you have a problem, what do you need to do? You need to solve it. So we give them a solution. Stories are normally a progression of problems and solutions. It doesn't have to be a big problem. It could be something as simple as they're baking a birthday cake for their friend. Their friend's birthday party is in an hour, but they're out of flour, so they need to go find some flour, and the stores are out, and so they have to solve that problem, and then maybe their cake goes wrong. You can just see how that's a small problem, but it still can keep the reader invested. It could also be a huge problem. Maybe there's a dragon on the rampage, and they burn the main character's house down, and now they don't have anywhere to live, and also the king is like, why'd you burn down my house? I was renting you that house. It wasn't me. It was the dragon. And you have to go around proving that there's this dragon. Because maybe it's an invisible dragon. Who knows? Make it as crazy as you want, okay? So, what I'd like you to do next is pause the video again. I would like you to discuss what kind of problems fairy tale characters have. What kind of issues do they have to deal with? Okay, so pause the video. Now I would like you to do the writing exercise. I'm going to assume that you're at home by yourself. You can work in a pair if you are in a classroom or you have someone in your house that you're studying with, if that's easier for you. So just pick a fairy tale and then think, what are the very basics of this story? How do I tell it in as short a way as possible? And then think about the structure, starting with your who and your where, then moving on to problem and solution. Again, can be multiple problems, multiple solutions. I'm just going to give you an example with my Cinderella story that I did, and then you can get on with it. So, here we go. So we start off with our who is our mean stepmother and our mean stepsisters, and of course Cinderella. Then the next sentence, we have again a who with the prince, and we have a where, he lives just up the road. And we also have a problem, because they won't let Cinderella go to the ball, that's the first problem. Then we move on, we have a solution in that the fairy godmother is going to give Cinderella footmen and a dress, but another problem, there's no pumpkin for a coach. So she has to walk all the way there, that's a problem, but the solution is that the prince doesn't care, because having a lady who's got a magic person on tap to sort all their problems is definitely a very good investment. So, And hopefully they like each other. I mean, I don't know if you've read French fairy tales, but fairy godmothers are actually a dime a dozen. Like, if you're royal, you have a fairy godmother. That's basically how it works. He's probably like, you're probably a secret princess. Probably things are gonna go your way once I marry you. And that's actually not true. That happens. That's actually not true. It often gets worse after that if a fairy tale continues. So, fairy tales are a minefield. A minefield for princesses, I'm telling you. So if you want to go ahead and write your fairy tales now, then you can read them to the class if you want. If you would like to share them with me, I'd love to hear them. You can comment them in the comment section if that's okay, or you can get your teacher to do it for you. Let me know if you did enjoy the lesson and if it was useful. And have a good book day. I hope that things are not crazy next year and you can have actual authors in who could come around and look and give you hints on your writing. I will give you some feedback if you want it. Just let me know. And have a good day. Thank you for watching.